Sounds good. So,
Yay.
everybody, this is Shea Depmore. If you do not know, we're gonna talk a whole lot about what she does, but my first exposure to her was funny TikToks. And let's be honest, there's a lot of people trying to do funny TikToks these days, but there's a whole lot more to Shea as well. And I just wanted to say welcome and thanks for agreeing to come chat with me today here.
Oh my God, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I think
Yay. I can't believe I'm your first non-musical guest.
Yeah, well, you know, it's kind of the musical circle is mostly how I know people, and then I kind of realized that, you know, maybe it's a little self-centered for me to always be trying to get like music career tips out of my guests. Maybe people who watch and listen might actually want to learn about some other aspects of creativity or things like that. So I think it was time to branch out.
Well, thank you for. I hope I'm helpful.
Absolutely.
It feels like a lot of pressure.
I think a low pressure way to start is just go ahead and we'll do a couple of, I guess, background of kind of you as a person, and then after that, maybe you as career ambitions and what you've done to kind of lead you to what you're doing right now and what you want to do. But just maybe let us know where you grew up, where you came from. The things that specifically on your website you said in your bio something like you probably don't think it's that interesting, but this is interesting to me. So let the people know who you are.
Yeah, well, I'm Shea Depmore. And I mean, I know we said no career stuff, but I'm an actor, which is what brought me to TikTok. And I grew up in Orange County, California. The product of an Israeli and a Texan. So that's pretty much my background. And yeah, I mean, it's funny. I've always known that I was going to be doing something creative. So separating my career ambitions from who I am as a person has always felt odd to me because it is such an integral part of who I am. But you know, I grew up very creative in general. I'm not a visual artist, but I grew up watching my mom. She is a much better visual artist and trained visual artist than I am. So
yeah,
I
I'm
kind of
awful at
learned
any
to
kind of
sketch
visual
people
art.
and
that's not me.
it's so good though, but I mean it's a good thing to do just to kind of zen out, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if you're not like professional. That's my little like extra creative stuff. I'm not that great, but
are you still in Orange County? You're still in California?
I am still in California.
Yeah.
Yes. I've actually, for the pandemic times, we sublet our apartment, my boyfriend and I, and we have been with my mom in Orange County for the past few months, but we are headed back to Los Angeles.
Okay.
So it's not that far though. It's an hour-ish. But yeah, we're headed back to our place because our subletter just left. So
gotcha.
yeah.
And I was this was something I had kind of had already written down because on a couple of your live streams I noticed your partner, your boyfriend, interjecting some conversation and stuff when you guys had some back and forth. Does he do anything similar in comedy, be it or acting, or I'm just curious if that's a partnership thing.
He is an actor, and he's done improv before, but I don't think he would say that comedy is his, path in, aside from acting and comedic work. But yeah, he every video that I make, he is the person to tell me whether or not it's funny. So he is definitely forced into a comedic partnership with me because I don't trust myself. Especially when you're working on something for a while, it's so easy to miss stuff or to assume that people understand you. I mean, it's hard to get, I'm sure it'd be good to have more than just one check before I release stuff, but that's obviously impossible with TikTok and how fast it moves.
Yeah.
But it's nice to live with him because I can force him to watch my stuff or to read my scripts ahead of time and know if things don't make sense or if they're just not funny and I need to redo it. He's very good that way. So
I always
I'm
find
kind of left out.
this kind of question, or the reason I ask this is because I think that's kind of an aspect too that people who follow creators in all kinds of fields is not necessarily something you think about, but a lot of times, people will talk about, be it friends or whoever, how influential the people you surround yourself are. But a lot of times your significant other, because
Mm-hmm.
I know that I make my girlfriend listen to lots of things and stuff, and
Okay. I'm not alone.
yeah, but I think that's an aspect that if you're only watching someone's videos or you're only listening to someone's songs, you might not know about that part of a kind of relationship behind the scenes, which is always kind of a cool aspect, I think, if you can have some synergy there.
Oh yeah. I'm so grateful. I mean, all the time, I'll tell him that. I think the other day I was joking that, behind every mediocre TikToker is a boyfriend that's gonna, give you no bullshit and tell
Yeah.
you the way it is and, be helpful in that way. It's definitely something I'm grateful for. And I don't know how, I mean, I look back at everything I've made, especially in the past year, so many of the things that I've done, I don't know if they would have been as good or if they would have gotten out. Because
Mm-hmm.
you kind of hit a wall sometimes and you don't know how to get through something creatively. And a lot of times I'll hit that wall and I'll just go, this video is shit. I need to throw it away. I
Yeah.
can't do this. And then he'll look at it and give me just one quick thing to say, well, you can just do this, or you can
Yeah.
just rewrite that one tiny bit and it'll make a lot more sense and you can use it instead of throwing away all the work you spent all day
Right.
on. But, as a creative person, I think you can get into this like, it's all shit. I'm gonna throw it all away.
Yeah.
You need some sanity
Absolutely.
outside of your own brain to help you through.
For
So
sure. And so we have a little bit, you growing up, your parents, where you're at, career wise now, where did you find yourself coming? How did you come into what you're doing now, but also even before the early stages of it, starting to act or make your own content or deciding you wanted to do that? What does that journey look like for you?
Oh yeah. I mean, I started making my own content almost 4 or 5 years ago now. Um, I mean, as an actor, especially now, you can do it the traditional way and submit and try and get into rooms. I mean, the way that looks is like a lot of the professional things that you would audition for, you need to have a well-connected agent or manager to get you in the
Mm-hmm.
door. You need to have a certain level of connections. And I mean, I went to college for this. I've trained with one of the best acting coaches in LA. Like I can tell you I'm very well trained and very,
Yeah.
confident in my skills as an actor. But I've always struggled getting people to understand like my type or to, understand what I am and getting
Mm-hmm.
into rooms. I knew that I needed to make my own content to show people who I am, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I knew I needed to do that. And I started, I had heard Casey Neistat
Mm-hmm.
be interviewed. I don't even remember where, to be honest. It was before I was even really familiar with him. And he had talked about, it was back when he had started doing his daily vlog.
Yeah.
And just the idea of pushing yourself to do something every day. I thought it would be a good way to learn how
Mm-hmm.
to do content on my own because I was not a filmmaker. Those are not my skills. Writing,
Yeah.
filmmaking, all the other stuff that you need to be able to do if you want to make your own content. So I started with doing a vlog and I actually made it an entire year. They're all privated
Okay.
now, so I'm sorry. No, they're very embarrassing. They're really not great vlogs, but it taught me how to edit for
Right.
myself. I did every Monday through Friday
Mm-hmm.
because I was working a million survival jobs, unlike Casey
Right.
Neistat.
Right.
So I did every Monday through Friday for a year, and it really taught me how to tell a story and how to make my own stuff. Obviously I wasn't writing scripts, but I think it helped me learn how to shape a story in a way because I was trying to tell a story every day with my mediocre life, which is a challenging thing to do.
Right.
But I learned a whole lot, and that from there, it was at the same time I was doing a web series with a bunch of my actor friends, and that kind of all snowballed. And then, I think Trump was elected. I mean, it must have been like the year after that I had
So I was gonna
started
ask,
that.
when was it you were, or how old were you when you were doing these vlogs, and like, was this post college for
Well,
you? And
yeah, it was, but I think it was just the year before. I think it was 2015,
okay,
2014, 2015 actually, I believe, because I think it was just the year before, maybe a little bit before then.
yeah,
And then basically, uh, yeah, because then I had, sorry, my whole brain.
that's okay.
It's still morning for me.
Trust
Um,
me, the stream, like anyone who's watching this in chat or anything, they are used to just the worst train of thought and tangent. I am horrible, especially when I'm trying to
oh,
focus something on stream and answer a question. So this is nothing. Yeah, you're keep
okay.
going.
That's how my live streams are all the
Yeah.
time. My brain just goes in a million directions. But yeah, I think it was roughly a year, maybe more than a year. And because I know I made a vlog on the night on election night
Yeah.
when we found out that he was elected. Um, and I didn't start doing political comedy then, but I had started around then making commentary videos on YouTube and, a little bit like sillier stuff.
Yeah.
And then 2 years in to his presidency, I was just going crazy with everyone else, and the Kavanaugh,
Right.
that was that was happening. His like whole confirmation hearing. So when that was happening, I had some silly idea to do like a Trump detox sketch.
Mhm.
And I needed to do it for my own sanity. It was kind of making fun of myself and how much I needed to detox my own brain from this presidency and
Right.
administration. And that kind of forced, it did well on Facebook of all places. Like I had been putting my YouTube videos on Facebook every now and again, and I think all of the Facebook parents really like political comedy. So I found my little niche with them,
Yeah.
and it took a bit until TikTok was something that I realized I should get on, and that because of how quick you can make those videos, it really allowed me to make a lot more and to focus more on political comedy. And
And how
I mean,
long
it
have
just
you
kind
been
of
on
snowballed from
TikTok,
there
making any kind of
for
consistent?
just over a year.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I started,
That's similar
technically, I
time
started
frame
at the
to
end of
when I
last
did.
of October.
Hmm.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yay. So before all of the rush of the pandemic people.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's been really good. I mean, just how quickly you can turn out videos for something like political comedy. I was running into a hard time doing longer format stuff on YouTube and on Facebook because I was getting too precious with it, and things, it has the shelf life. Jon Stewart said this, but
Mhm.
political comedy has the shelf life of tuna salad.
Yeah.
You only have so long before it is not funny
Not
anymore.
topical
It's
and
completely
yeah.
irrelevant.
Yeah.
Exactly. So TikTok, because they're so quick and they don't have to be perfect, it helped me learn how to write political comedy in a way that it could still do well because
Mm.
it didn't have to be perfect. It had to be under a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of snowballed from there and has done okay. I haven't been, absurdly successful like some of the people who came out of the pandemic have been, but it's been, I mean, I'm so grateful for everyone I've met, and I definitely have grown a lot in the past year. So I'm
Yeah. What
very happy
has
with that app.
I was gonna say, so this is great because I had some, I for once actually prepared, maybe because I was like, this is non-music stuff that I'm gonna talk about. I was like, I should actually write down some questions this time. Usually I wing it, and I like to think I do all right, but who the fuck knows? But I was, but I was gonna Um, I have a question in the chat here. I saw this on your website as well. Ask your YouTube series "Humans of New York" out loud is great. Are you thinking of doing anything else like that? We're just kind of talking about this YouTube
Oh,
content versus TikTok, and even shorter than the YouTube videos.
yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much. I love the Humans of New York series in general was one of my favorite things to
Yeah.
do. I basically had taken interviews from the Humans of New York Instagram.
Right.
Basically, I mean, it's all over the internet for him.
Yeah.
But another photographer by the name of, or another person by the name of Brandon. I don't know if you do photography, but
I've been known to
basically,
dabble.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Well, Brandon Stanton is the one that does Humans of New York, and I
Yeah.
had turned a lot of the stories. He goes and he photographs people and takes down their story, and I basically turned those into monologues and filmed them. And I
Yeah.
actually released it like just before he started filming interviews with people.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So it got a little bit. Oh my God, I'm sorry. The dogs. I apologize.
I
Hopefully, you
didn't
don't
hear
hear
it,
too
so
many barking.
no, it's
Okay,
okay.
good. But yeah, so I
See,
really
Chad, this is
enjoy
how you
doing
can
that.
note a successful person. She's got the AirPods, and they're canceling out background noise automatically.
Oh,
This is what we
actually, I
strive
don't
for.
have those fancy ones. I'm just in a good area, I guess, because I want those. What
Yeah.
is the new ones do that, don't they?
I have no
The
idea, but
AirPod
I feel like
Pros.
even the like AirPods when they like the base model are pretty good. Like they're designed for talking
They're
like
good.
you're on the
Okay.
phone. So like they have some of that going on. That's I don't know. We can ask Tim
All right.
Apple about
I'll
it
pretend like
sometime.
I'm
Yeah.
fancy. Yeah. Yes, good old Tim Apple. Yeah, I totally forgot what my thing was, but
The
I do want to do more
yeah.
Humans of New York and things like that. I love storytelling. I love interviewing people and get it. That is impossible right
Right.
now to do. I mean, I guess I could do what you're doing and
Yeah.
do stuff digitally, but like I had done this series where I had gone and interviewed strangers and done
Mhm.
something similar to turn in their stories into monologue pieces. And that's really fun when you just like run into somebody on the street
Yeah.
and, convince them to tell you their stories. I love stuff like that. But in general, I do want to be doing more because that's more traditional acting work,
Mhm.
where there's no pressure to be funny. You use humor to cope as a human all the
Mhm.
time, but there's less, it's also less writing work than something like Humans of New York. I'm finding a story and just adapting it as an actor.
Right.
So I want to try doing more stuff like that. I have a second TikTok account that I started that
Okay.
might turn into something like that. I
Spicy.
was
I didn't
very
know about
dumb
this.
and yeah. Well, I started it right before the election, like a goddamn idiot, because I was just so hungry to work on something that was more not not dramatic, but like theatrical in the sense that I would work on it as an actor, like scene work that I could do with my boyfriend, who's also an actor,
Yeah.
or with other friends of mine, FaceTime type scenes or something like that. So I'd set up another thing. I think it's just the internet actor is
Mhm.
what I had called it. And I had set it up right before the election and before I got really, really busy. And I was like, oh, well, maybe like if writers want to send me stuff, then I can adapt it into like a TikTok series type stuff. And it would be, more like little miniature television shows, like very miniature television
Yeah.
shows. Like I still want to return back to that, but I shouldn't have, as someone who does political comedy, I shouldn't have started that right before the busiest time of year
Uh,
over the past 4 years. So now that I'm kind of getting a hang of things, I still am wanting to like increase my output and do more long form comedy in general. So I think I need to figure that out first because that's where the majority of my, I think, audience is right now and why they've followed me. So I gotta get a strong hold on that, and then I think I can return back to doing more theatrical
Speaking of
stuff.
which, I know in your comments a lot of time people are tagging the Daily Show and late night shows and things where
Oh
they
yeah.
feel that you would be a good fit or may have be in a similar wheelhouse in some of the political content. Is that your kind of ideal, or how would you like to see your career developing from the stuff you're working on now, or continuing, or how do you want to build on that, or what would you ideally like to see?
I definitely, I mean, that would be a huge, huge thing for me is getting a hold of them or, obviously,
Yeah,
I think SNL for every actor who does comedy, SNL is,
right.
no matter how many times I know everyone has their like, oh, well, SNL was better at this time. Like
Yeah,
it is still, I think, and same thing with the Daily Show for political comedy. I mean, that is the place that has given us
yeah.
every, you know, incredible
A lot of
political
people have been
comedian.
correspondents for that show, and yeah.
Yes, exactly. So
Mm.
I would kill to, I mean, just talk to anyone who works at those places.
Yeah,
But yeah, I don't know. It is so odd that I do feel like I found my voice as a writer. I can write much easier now when it comes to political comedy. And I'm starting to learn more sketch stuff that's not political, but to me, it feels like the easiest pathway in as an actor is to kind of use what I'm best at and try and get into the mainstream entertainment industry that way.
yeah.
Um, it's still, it's one of those things where I think in the beginning, anyone just has this like false sense of like, you just feel is that beginner's luck kind of feeling,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. So I
Or
still
imposter
feel like I
syndrome
have a
as you
little
try and repeat it, or
yes, well, yeah, I'm getting that imposter syndrome
mm.
now a
Okay,
lot more.
yeah.
In the beginning, I think it was still so new, and I
Mm.
wasn't familiar with as many people doing what I do online as I
Right.
am now.
Mm-hmm.
So in the beginning, I was like, "There's not that many people doing this." I feel like I could get a hold of the Daily Show and be their TikTok correspondent.
Yeah.
And as time goes on, you're like, "Oh, God damn, this is gonna be really hard, actually." But yeah, I definitely, as I've done more of this, realized, just breaking into like the traditional entertainment industry on that business side, it's difficult to get people's attention, to get them to look at your work, to get them to open an email. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, not for lack of trying, but it definitely, it's been difficult for me to figure out who the right people to contact are on that side, if that makes sense as well. Whereas like the traditional acting side, I know who the right people to contact are. It's just a matter of getting them to like see me.
Yeah.
But on the like Daily Show kind of side in particular, and in all of the late night stuff, like looking at the people who do their socials, it's been hard for me to figure out the best way to get a hold of somebody who is in that world to even ask for it. I'm not sure.
Do you feel
I've
like
been doing lots of Googling and IMDBing, but
do you feel like even
go
though
ahead.
there's maybe overload of who to go to, and it seems like, a wider field of people making content, and maybe in your niche or in others and everywhere it's like that. I mean, how many music artists on TikTok are trying to have a song go viral and blah blah blah. But do
Mm-hmm.
you also feel like it's exciting and inspiring in a way, maybe equal to as much as it's overwhelming, but that there is that things like that absolutely can happen through platforms right now that are we get to do a lot more a lot easier than we do even if we were trying to do this 10 or 15 years ago. um, and the
Oh yeah.
ability to create everything and to have a chance to get in touch with someone is I don't know. That's pretty cool as well. Even if we haven't cracked the code quite yet, um, there's a lot of opportunity to go around
Yeah,
there.
that possibility. I wouldn't, well, first of all, I wouldn't be doing political comedy if it wasn't for that platform and the ability to create and to fail quickly and recover quickly.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And then the access is, I also don't know if I would succeed. I mean, I'm very, again, like very confident in my skills as an actor, but I am not the traditional, I don't fit easily into
Yeah.
any of the categories that Hollywood likes to put people in.
Mm.
And I think without the ability to create my own work and to show people proof of
Concept.
where I can fit and how
Yeah.
I can, yeah, exactly. If it wasn't for that ability, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I would feel as confident that things would work out at some point. I mean,
Yeah.
I always run into issues with like self-confidence and like, will any of this pan out? And it's not like I
Right.
don't go through that, but I at
Yeah.
least have the hope because I see more of a pathway
Yeah.
in ways like TikTok and, and Twitter and every social platform that allows me to create. I can see the pathway, whereas if I were just looking at it in a traditional entertainment sense,
Right.
I don't know if I would see a pathway for myself. It's really
Yeah.
hard. I always saw that for people. Like, I love my boyfriend. He is the generic, like, good looking white guy. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So like I very always clearly from college saw that pathway for him. Like, you knew exactly what you would cast him in, and you can
Mm-hmm.
just very easily
Yeah.
put him in that, like the path, if that makes sense. I never really saw things as clearly myself, and I think a lot of other people in the industry that I've encountered also have had difficulty seeing where I
Have felt
fit.
that.
Um, yeah, and that's why I'm so grateful for social media and the internet, because I can just figure it out myself, and then when things work, I can show people.
Hey, yo, shout out internet. I was gonna say as
Yeah.
well, for anyone in the chat, there's some new people who've come to the stream recently. In recent streams, we had a crazy night last night with some new people coming through and a lot of support. That was really cool. I just wanted to just interject real quick. So for those of you who haven't been around during one of the podcast streams, I apologize for not hello and like, I don't know, pressing the soundboard and memes and whatever going on all the time when we're doing the when we're doing the interviews. So I am reading and keeping up, and we'll do a stream later as well with some, I don't know, some games or something. But I like to focus when we're doing this on the guests and having the recording for posting it later and all that. So my apologies if I don't respond to everyone, but I do see you all in the chat, and feel free to ask questions for Shea if you have them as we go along. I was going to ask as well. We're talking right now a lot about seeing this path to success through content creation, the new versus old models of navigating an industry that you're in. I was going to ask as well. So these are some things that are maybe uncertainties or things we're still trying to figure out in whatever aspect of a creative career we're in. What has been a highlight or two so far for you that has happened that was a really cool moment? It could have been getting to have a conversation with someone that you admired or something like that, but maybe something that has been a little victory so far in this past year or two.
Well, definitely this past year, I got my first press coverage.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you would say that there was. I feel like I totally forget like when it actually was. It was after the election. The Proud Boys, they were doing one of the Million MAGA March
Yeah.
things, appropriating the Million Man
Yeah.
March. And I had just been tagged in videos warning people to stay away because there were going to be a lot of white supremacists and it was going to be dangerous. So
Right.
I had made this thing a million, basically MAPA brunch, like to make
Yes,
America
I do.
pancakes
I
again.
remember this. Yeah.
Yes, so we filled the internet with pancakes, all
Yeah.
thanks to the K-pop stands.
Hmm.
I'm still
That's
floored that
right.
they found my video, and because I had made a small little joke at the end saying, "Oh, somebody needs to inform the K-pop stands because they
Right.
are the guardians of the internet and
Yes.
they are the ones who make these things happen." And they found it, they were informed, and we took over their hashtag, and I was interviewed from a couple of different outlets, and I had press coverage, and I got, a bunch of celebrities like Bette Midler posted pancakes. She has no idea
Yeah.
who I am, but some dumb idea I had made her post pancakes on Twitter, which was pretty
That's
fucking
amazing. Yeah.
cool. So yeah, so that was very fun. That was probably the biggest thing to come of this past year. But I am, I look back on it like I had done a year in review, and I think I made over 500 TikToks last year. And,
Wow.
I did a lot that I'm very excited
Hmm.
about. I'm trying to think if there's anything else specific that happened that was like milestone-esque in the past year. But I mean, just meeting everybody has been so huge as well. The Especially during the pandemic,
Hmm.
I'm so used to having an acting studio or a group of friends that I can go to that are creative in real life.
Right.
Um, and when I started doing this work, I didn't have that as much until like the pandemic happened and I became more
Hmm.
friends with more creators on TikTok. And that's been, I think, such a huge win, meeting people who are creative in other ways than just acting.
Yeah.
uh Kind of like you were saying, like your world is music, and
Hmm.
I'm sure that's where most of your creativity
Right.
exists mentally, and where your friends are. It's really cool to meet people who are doing different things, for me at least.
Yeah.
uh that's been a really cool thing, just to see and meet creators who are not in my lane at all. So like visual artists and
Absolutely.
musicians like you, and people who are doing political comedy and just politics, like straight politics,
Hmm.
all of that stuff. It's been really a big win, I think, for me the past year to expand my circle
Yeah.
of small creator friends. So it's been really
See,
cool.
this is why writing down questions is for chumps. That's literally like how has quarantine been for your creativity? I wrote that one down. It already happened.
Oh,
It's
no
not
way.
it's not even it's not even needed. I'm crossing it off. One that
Yes.
I'm I'm jumping back to something as well because this came up and I was too focused on what I'd written down, but I was going to ask earlier. This is a complete leap back, but I know that there are people in different disciplines, be it streamers watching this, be it other music artists, people making comedy or making TikToks, um, and it's always interesting to kind of get the background. I don't know about for you, but for me, I love like movies or stories based around artists and kind of like origin stories of artists and stuff like that. And I remember thinking I was never really interested in musicals at all. And one time my family took a trip to New York and we saw Jersey Boys, and I remember like thinking it was the coolest thing ever just because it was like the origin story of Frankie Valli and like learning where he and that group had come from. And so I always think these little background things can be interesting. So this came up earlier when you mentioned working a million survival jobs, and I wanted to ask what has been a maybe your favorite and your least favorite job that you did or are doing that was not related to comedy or to your content.
Mhm. Um, well, I have to say I'm very lucky right now in that my survival job currently
Mm,
is in social media.
Yeah.
I'm starting a Patreon. I'm starting to figure out how to make my job just my own content.
Yep.
But I will say this to anyone who does social media work in general, you never know how it's going to pay off. A manager I had been working with, his social media guy had seen what I was doing on my own and had basically pushed me into a social media job at Participant Media, which is a production company in LA. And from there, I was able to completely like change my survival job so that now I only create content for people. It's still, you know, I want to be doing my own stuff. I'm making like content for therapists now and like all the stuff that you wouldn't, it's not like content like you see on my channel.
Right.
But it is, I'm really fortunate. I work with great people and I'm able to work on my own schedule, and that I'm very grateful for now. So I'm
Awesome.
very, very lucky. Before I did that,
Yeah.
there was a period where, I mean, I definitely did the server stuff.
Yeah.
Serving is the worst.
Yeah.
I had a really cool survival job like immediately after college where I worked for this like arts organization, and I got to host a lot of cool shows, like at the El Rey, which is a really big venue. And it was really, it sounded on paper, especially for someone who had just graduated, I was like, I have this cool job, but it was so much work and too much work for the money that I was getting. So I had to kind of quickly get out of that world, because if you're acting, you really need to have a part-time job, because it takes so much work just to break in the door. So that was cool, but not necessarily. And then I've done tutoring. Oh my God, I've done so many things. I've
What did you tutor?
tutored, and well, I actually did math. I was really, now I can't remember anything, but math was one of my best subjects, math and science, which is a wonder that I went into school for theater. But that helped me because those are things that people usually need tutoring for. So I was able to, I primarily just did math tutoring. And then I also was a speech coach, basically. I felt more like a tutor because it was a very small group of kids, and they did speech and debate, so I coached them. I also taught at a Sunday school, which was hilarious. And so it was a Hebrew Sunday school. And my mom is Israeli, but I grew up very secular. I mean, my dad's Christian, so I also grew up, and my best friends that I really spent, the majority of my time with their family growing up, I would go to Bible study with them. So I had like introductions into religion in that way, and we would go to high holidays. Like I just wasn't very religious, but I had just gotten back from Israel, and I had quit I had no job. Basically, I had quit everything. Came back, and then I ran into a friend who was like, "Oh, well, you're Israeli, right?" And I'm like, I mean, technically I have Israeli citizenship, but I'm like, you shouldn't, like you really shouldn't be putting me in charge of like teaching children religion at all. But that's what happened. She was like, "Yeah, I can get you a job at, this synagogue that I'm working at." And thank God, I mean, they're reform, so, which is not, as conservative, but yeah, I hope nobody hears that now, because they're like, well, she was working at our synagogue for a couple of years. Like, what do you mean? I had to call my mom like pretty much every night before. I would call her and just like review everything. And she's not that religious either, but like at least she could make sure that my like Hebrew pronunciation was correct. And you know what I mean? That was a job I shouldn't have had. But yeah.
See, this is the kind of interesting like stuff that I like to dig out. We got math gang in the chat.
I can't wait until those kids are like old enough to like I'm gonna run into one of them somewhere, because oh my God, I did learn that is the one thing that taught me that donuts are just, that's how you, if you want to control a classroom,
Now, hang
bribe
on.
them
You
with
you had on
donut
your website
parties.
something about you almost died to a donut. A donut almost
Yeah,
killed you.
yes, this
There's
is
something in the bio on our website. It's like
actually
fun facts, and it says like a donut
a
almost
donut
killed me.
saved me
Oh,
quite
okay.
literally. So, I mean,
See,
this
that's very
sounds
different. Okay,
it's
okay.
very different. um,
Do explain. All right, I'm back
well,
to
it
writing
is
things
kind of
down
a
from now on.
no, no, you're good, you're good. There was a donut and my life was involved.
All
um,
right.
but yeah, it is kind of a more intense story. But
Okay.
basically, my first time in Israel, I was in a terrorist attack. There were three suicide bombers,
Mm-hmm.
and we should have been much closer to like the middle of the street.
Mm.
But I threw a fit because I was a child and I really wanted to have a donut. And my mom almost, she was like, "We're in Israel. Like, this is not, you're not having donuts from this like
Yeah,
American
yeah.
donut chain. There's no way I'm taking you in here." But I was being a spoiled little brat and I got my way. And thank God I did because we were able to get into the bomb shelter by the time we
Wow.
had heard the second one.
Yeah.
Whereas we would have been in the middle of that street if it wasn't for that. So a donut quite literally
Wow.
saved my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Remember that. Donuts, guys. Don't
Always, if
don't
you have a
deny any or
craving,
yeah. Don't deny
it's a
cravings for
sign.
donuts.
You need that donut. Yes, no matter what anybody says, don't let them stop you.
Is that like Ghostbusters? A marshmallow nearly killed me.
Yeah.
The opposite. The opposite.
Oh no. Yeah.
Um, what? This is interesting as well because you were talking about. So it sounds like this is something you're figuring out, and I have a Patreon, so I understand. Where you're going and working to navigate that. What does your these things you've learned the last year or two and for several years doing these things, making your content, what do you think a realistic transition to sustaining yourself off of your content and your career ambitions looks like for you, or what things are you thinking about, and also maybe what then has that led to as your actions you want to take in this year in 2021, or things you've thought about for doing this year, maybe changing up this year or something like that.
Yeah, well, I definitely wanted to make, and I've had this feeling of basically I had wrapped up. I work independently, doing social media for other people, and that's
Right.
just client work basically. And I wrapped up with some clients, and I'm at the point now where I either need to get new clients to pay my bills, especially because I'm moving back into my apartment, or I need to start making some money from the work that I do on my own. And I want to take the leap and make more content and start making money from that. And I wasn't really sure if that was possible at the point that I am at currently. And I had this like number in my head of like, well, when I get to 100,000 followers, like maybe that's a number that I can
Right.
make
Yeah.
money off of. But you know, I was having this conversation with my boyfriend. The next morning I woke up and someone had randomly Venmoed me $15 and it just said like thank you for the TikToks.
Yeah.
And I don't post my Venmo anywhere. I didn't have
Yeah.
they had to actually I mean, I am the only Shea Depmore that exists, I'm pretty sure. Like Depmore is like a completely made up
Yeah.
last name. So it wasn't hard for them to find me, I'm sure, but they still had to like think to go and like look for me
Right.
on Venmo. So to me, it just felt very much of like a sign that I need to just be okay going out there and doing a Patreon. I literally
Yep.
just launched that kind of. I don't know if I'm curious to know if TikTok has suppressed. I tried to do an announcement video yesterday about it on TikTok, but it was in TikTok jail for about an hour.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's happened to you where it's like at 0 views and they're waiting for somebody to look at it and approve
That's
it, I
that's
guess.
just all my videos. Oh no, I'm just
Oh my
kidding. I'm
God.
just joking. There's
No,
not no,
it
but
happens
I
to
have
me a
had.
lot
I know
though.
what you're talking about. Yeah.
It happens to me, I mean, more than I would want it to happen.
Right.
So hopefully I can do the announcement video today, but I don't know if there's something weird about asking for money on TikTok and they just don't want you to do that.
Yeah, I don't know.
But that's where I think a first step is, because that's sustainable. I don't know how many people are going to want to give to, like, I definitely have a good number of people that I can think of that really enjoy my content and they're always there, but you have to think like hard to make anyone on social media take an action. And I always,
Yes.
especially I
Yeah.
think of for my social media clients, like, I mean, usually you're looking at like a percent of your entire audience is going to actually take that action.
Yeah, absolutely.
5% if you're really fucking lucky, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's high.
Like
Yeah.
that's huge. So you kind of have to keep that in mind. And the way that content is distributed and shown to people on TikTok, I'm not sure how it's going to work out number wise for reaching that percent that would do something. And then there's only going to be a percent of that percent that like has the money to invest in, the
Yeah.
content that
Yeah.
I'm making. So I'm not sure how it's going to work out, but I feel like I have been pushing it down the road too long and that I might as well try, and that'll be my first step. And then after that, I do want to start working with brands and reaching out.
Yep.
I did actually do some videos for Next Gen America right before the election, although they hired me to make some videos for them literally the week before the election. I made 15 TikToks for them. And that was just like a big, huge, insane push
Yeah.
that I feel like next time I do something like that, hopefully it won't be that condensed and that many things all at once. But it gave me a sense of like my value and of, it's hard working with brands. I know I see people, like I get those emails. I don't know if you get like messages from brands that want to pay you like $10 for a TikTok. And it's like, no, I'm not gonna, that's not worth it to me. Like that, using the audience and showing my audience an ad when I'm not even getting paid a living wage.
Right.
I'm not going to be
Yeah.
doing stuff like that until I can get paid what I get paid to make people content like my survival job, which is kind of what I'm going to be telling brands as I start to work with them. Like that's my base pay that I get paid without my face in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then kind of value myself above that. But it is also a thing too, where I do think that brands and in general, quote unquote, influencers are not valued as highly. I think like a lot of people can get taken advantage of when they're working with like
definitely
kind of the first level of people that you would get when you're a smaller creator. So you kind of have to be careful about that. And like to me, it's more worth growing and waiting to work with a brand that I really care about.
Yep.
And that can afford what I think I'm worth. And then what I think it's not as much what I think I'm worth time. I definitely care about that, but I also care about like, if I'm going to show my audience an advertisement, take up their feed, then I want it to be something that I believe in and that I feel like is worth their time as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So once I get to that point, then I'll start doing brand content at some point, hopefully. Or the Daily Show will just friggin' call me. And I can be their TikTok
time to
correspondent.
ascend.
Exactly.
Yeah, come
One
with
of
us.
those things. Probably branded content first if we're being realistic, but you never know.
You do never know.
Yeah. So Patreon first, then branded stuff maybe. And then, we'll kind of see. I don't know. You do merch, right?
Yeah.
Your hat and all of it. How has that been fulfillment wise?
That's been like, fun. Okay. The problem with fulfillment is I went a different, route this time around with this. So I'd done some little like very small run merch things in the past where I had everything myself and then would like, so I'd have to guesstimate, already like, on a starving artist budget, and you're like, okay, do
Yeah,
I
it's a
spend
lot.
$300 getting 30 t-shirts and then how many do I sell and blah, blah, blah. And so I've done that. And so this time around I went and I used Printful that does fulfillment of a lot of different
Oh yeah.
products. And so that's who's done everything. And the quality has been amazing. The hoodies and everything was really cool, and the hats getting like embroidered and stuff. I really like that. Everything's been good with the actual products. However, in the chat right now, there's someone named Gonky Gonky who says, "Where's that large jumper at?" And this is the thing. I picked like a very high quality hoodie and how I wanted to sell it. And all of a sudden they're like, we're waiting on our provider, blah, blah, blah. So Gonky, among others, has wanted to get a particular size and product and not had it available. So waiting on that. So, and this is a recent, can't wait to feel that quality though, he says, eventually. But so that's been the only downside. But I think like a lot of things too is, it's still, a smaller segment of people who have the want and means to both do that. And so I've had, I felt really fortunate in the support I've gotten for it, but it's not a lot of it's not a lot of like
financial.
Yeah, it's not like very consistent. It's scattered right now. Yeah, you didn't actually submit an order, Hurricane. That's why you didn't get your shirt. I don't think we ever actually put in an order for that. Oh
my God.
So so you can see from the chat, there are probably multiple issues that all resolve with me. I'm saying I'm not making as much as I want to off the merch, and I'm not getting orders submitted. Who knows what's going on? But
oh no!
what I was gonna say as well. All right, we'll sort it out, Major Hurricane. We'll get it done. But
it's on merch.
Yeah, I was gonna say as well. What do you okay? First of all, you had mentioned looking at or starting to be okay with asking to monetize, or how do people support, or things like that. And one thing I was going to say, because I love just like brainstorming and strategizing these things with people, I think it's really fun, and seeing like what kind of content or platforms I think they would do well on. I think for you, it makes a lot of sense to treat, or I think a lot of people, when they start trying to monetize, they are hesitant to treat all the different ways in which you can try and monetize a personal brand in the same way they did with content in the beginning. So when you dive into creating content and you're not sure, you're like, should I stream here? Should I post here? Which place do I post my videos? Should I put a lot of effort into this platform? Or how do I, what format works? And you test and try a lot of different things. I think that's probably the best way with monetization as well. And it can feel cumbersome, but you'll get kind of data points for what people are okay with. And, that could be... I think you should find a way to, like, a format that works for you for streaming on Twitch or something, because the community features are very cool, where people can subscribe and pay a bit each month and stuff like that. So that's been, huge. A few of these people in the chat are way too nice with me with helping support as well on the live streams. But yeah,
Can I ask?
Go ahead.
So people still see your streams regardless. It's just like, or no, they have to be subscribed.
Oh, sorry. So like on Twitch, that anyone can see the stream, whether they're like following you.
Yes.
Or so, and then a follow on Twitch is like a subscription on YouTube. So that's just like a
Okay.
follow. A subscription on Twitch, or what's called a subscription, is a paid where someone pays $5 a month and you split that, the streamer splits that revenue with Twitch, and they support the streamer
Mm-hmm.
monetarily. And you can offer some like custom emotes that only people who are subs can use in the chat while they're watching streams, and
I
getting
see.
ad-free
Okay.
viewing and stuff like that. So
That was my question. I'm like, why do people subscribe then?
yeah.
It's for ad free and for special perks and
Exactly,
stuff.
and a lot of streamers too. You can, I shouldn't say this. They're gonna be like, "Wait, you don't do that," because I used to, and it became a nightmare, like trying to fulfill everything. But a lot of streamers do also find ways to, like, unofficially incentivize subscriptions, which is fine as far as Twitch's like terms of service. So they might also, like, oh, so when someone's been a subscriber for 6 months or something on the channel, I'm gonna mail you a little like merch, like a letter with some stickers or whatever for
Oh,
the brand or things. So you can do stuff like that
that's nice.
as well. But yeah, exactly.
Great.
So yeah, you can see in the chat though, those are
Yeah.
all emotes that are just for people who subscribe to the channel. So we made one out of
Oh, I need
this
to watch.
pineapple mug so that since I'm
That's so
usually using it
cool.
on stream.
Oh my God.
But yeah,
Um, I love it. Yeah. Yeah, that is something I've heard other TikTokers. I mean, I have barely looked at Twitch
yeah,
compared to other social platforms. I'm also not a gamer, and
yeah.
I know when it had first started, I was like, okay, well, that's like Danny's thing. Um,
Exactly. Well, and Twitch
but
also is, I think, a lot just like where TikTok was kind of, everyone was like, I don't really want to watch
oh, it's just
cringy dances.
dancing.
And yeah,
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's the same thing
yeah.
with
It's
Twitch, as it started
new.
out in gaming and now people use it for so
Yeah,
much, so many different things. So, but we can
yeah.
brainstorm offline or off. I shouldn't say offline. How else do you
I love it.
communicate these days?
Yeah.
But off stream sometime if you have questions about Twitch or
Oh,
ideas or things
thanks.
for
Yeah,
that.
I love
I'm
that.
more than happy. I think it's a cool opportunity that a lot of people in different spaces should take advantage, because there definitely are political Twitch streamers. There's actors and people doing all kinds of different art and things
Yeah, it's so
on
cool.
Twitch. So, but yeah,
I love
some
it.
someone
Yeah.
in the chat says talk about, that's an emote that's made out of my ferret. Talk about Paisley. She's, I don't know,
Oh my
she's sleeping
God,
somewhere. But
yeah. He's so cute.
yeah, she is. To not waste too much of your time chatting here, but I was gonna ask too, if we, so all these things we've covered a lot of kind of different aspects of what you've done, and there's always a learning component to doing anything creative over time, and you have a lot of things. And so a classic question that I think is important, because inevitably there will be someone who watches or listens that has some tangential, if not a very exact similar interest to doing something what you're doing. What are some maybe pieces of advice you'd advise for someone, they want to do something similar, or they want to start creating their own content for be it acting, comedic or otherwise, but they're starting in 2021 instead of a few years ago when you were starting things? What would you tell them?
Well, if it's acting specifically, get trained. I can't tell you how frustrating it is to watch people. I think because acting, when you do it really well, it you look like just a normal person living their everyday life. And I think
Right.
because it's so easy to empathize with actors who are doing a good job,
Hmm.
people assume like, oh, well, like I've behaved that way in my regular life. I can do that on stage, or I can do that.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of skill. It takes a lot of work, that I would recommend making sure you get trained in a way that is, look for the best people in your area. It's hard now that it's the
Right.
pandemic, but a lot of people are doing digital training, so
Hmm.
you can do something over Zoom. It's just, and most of those things are going to be like self-tape classes,
Hmm.
audition type stuff, which is a little bit annoying, but that's the only thing you can really do from home,
Right.
without other actors to work with in person. But it's still not nothing. So if you want to get started on that, just look. And the cool thing is like you can train with someone no matter where they are. So
True.
that's my advice for acting. Obviously I'm not huge yet, but I can tell you that if you want to get good, you gotta work with a good coach, and you gotta work with other skilled actors. And then for creating content, you just I would give yourself a rigorous goal. When I started, it was at least a TikTok a day, which felt like a lot to me at the time. Now
Yeah.
I'm trying to push myself to do 3 a day,
Yeah.
which has been very rough, but it has given me a boost since the new year.
Yep.
Um, this is kind of what I DM'd you about this. I'd always run into the problem where the stuff that I spent the most amount of time on would
Right.
not get the same reaction as like the dumb, quick
Yeah.
TikToks that I would make every now and then. But since the new year, I got kind of depressed after the terrorist attack with the Capitol. So I had like a week after that where it was like a mental health week. I didn't really do a lot. But
Yeah.
besides that, you can tell in my analytics the times that I was doing 2 to 3 a day versus the time that I just did like one like
Right.
shitty one a day. And doing more a day has seemed to, I mean, it's not a lot of data because it's only since the beginning of the year. It seemed to lift things up for me in a way with the
Right.
algorithm. Like I have at least one of the three doing relatively okay compared to my follower count, if that makes sense.
Right.
And somehow, knock on wood, since I started doing that, the ones that I care more about are the ones that are lifted higher. And I don't know why. That's totally like, this isn't really good data to tell anybody, but from my own personal experience, I think part of it made me less precious with my work. So I was just like focused on getting stuff out and spending less time worrying over whether or not it was perfect. And then I think another part of it is the algorithm likes to see that you're active.
Yeah.
And for TikTok and for short form content, that means more than one a day, unfortunately.
Right.
Unless you're doing, I think, stuff that
That's
is clearly the
very
only people I see
involved, or yeah,
very high, which I
production
can't do
value and
anyway when
stuff.
it comes to political comedy. Like, but I've seen people do well when they do those like really
Yeah.
epic kind of
Yeah.
filmmakery things. But unless you're doing that, I think it's
Yeah.
worth experimenting, doing a lot a day.
Yeah.
And then you become less upset when things don't do well, if that
Right.
makes sense.
It doesn't seem
I'm,
as much riding
yeah, because
on
it's
one
like,
thing if you've done 3 times as many as you would normally. Or yeah.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It's so far it's helped me get out of my funk, but I say that and I go through times I really only had like maybe a week or two where I was like, okay, I did 3 a day like all week.
Yeah.
But having that goal pushes you to go further, and sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's only 1, but then you got the rest of the week you're doing a lot. So it helps push you, I think, a little bit further. I mean, I guess maybe check in with me in a couple months, see if I'm still
See
alive.
how it's
But
going. Hey, you can see
yeah,
on the
I don't know.
chat. Does she have pets? Thank you, chat, for bringing the heavy hitters.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
My dog is downstairs though, and it would be a very epic
Oh
move
yeah.
for me to
Don't.
go try and grab him. But you can see if you go on my Twitter or on my, I think, well, Instagram, it might be gone by now, but I just posted a really cute photo of him napping yesterday. So you can see him very easily on my Twitter. He's
Nice.
a cute little Chihuahua
And
mix
is
of some
it
kind.
at Shea Depmore for all your
Yes, all
socials?
my socials.
I'll make sure
Hmm.
to. I'll put that in the chat before we end here as well. You
Yay.
seem very self-critical. Do you think it's a good thing for creative people, or can adversely affect your creativity?
You got to have balance. So this is the thing, as any sort of artist, I think any sort of human, you have to have the ability to be very critical of yourself. And this is the harder thing. Well, I guess Dunning-Kruger effect would say that it's this is a sign that you are probably doing what you should be doing. If you can be very critical of yourself, usually it means that you have the skill to do
Right.
whatever that is. So I think that is a good thing because, I'm critical of myself because I can see where I could be. You know what I mean? Like you see what other people are doing, and you see how much room for growth you have, if that makes sense.
Right.
So I think that's a good thing. You just have to be careful. It's hard as an artist. I won't pretend like I don't fall victim to getting into slumps where I feel like I'm just the worst and I need to quit everything. Like that definitely happens from time to
Yeah.
time. But I do, and I've learned through a lot of work to have a healthy ego about my work. Like now I can say, I mean, I've said this a couple of times throughout, as an actor, I'm very skilled as an actor. Like I can say that now. I still get a little bit of like a
Yeah.
thing in my gut being like, no, you're not allowed to have that confidence. But
Mm.
like I've learned that I have to celebrate the times in which I am good, and I have to
Yeah.
celebrate and I have to acknowledge the wins and acknowledge when I've done good work. Because if you don't acknowledge that, then you throw away all of the stuff that you've learned, because it's like you're throwing away the baby with the bathwater every
Yeah.
time. You need both. You need to be able to see where you need to grow so you can get better. But if you don't see the stuff that you've done well, then you just completely like trash it every time,
Mm.
and you have to rebuild it all over again. So you got to exist in that middle ground, I think, as an artist.
I've found
It's really important.
as well that exactly that the balance is important, and the I don't know, a slightly more specific way that I've found that balance, and then maybe you guys see this for people that watch. 'Cause sometimes I'll work on songs on stream and stuff. Is I think it can be useful as a creative to be really, really self-critical and critical of your work right up until a point where you're able to let it go. And so
Mm-hmm.
for me that might look like I will mix a song and have however many versions of it over and over and over again. But then once I'm kind of I realize I'm moving pieces and then moving them back, or I'm not really like then again
Yeah.
get to a plateau or a point like that where then when I you kind of have an agreement with yourself. Okay, now I'm putting this out into the world. There's no real value in critiquing it at this point. I've put all that effort into my work doing it. So I think it's like also an exercise in being critical when you have control, and then trying not to do the human thing of worrying
Yeah.
about things you can't control as much afterwards when you kind of put something out into the world that you've
Yeah.
created.
Well, just what you said, I think it's more than that, in that you need to make sure that your self-critique doesn't prevent you from releasing it into the world.
Yeah.
So, you can be critical of yourself, and you
Right.
need to be critical of yourself. But I think, like you said, you're working on it a million times. Like you could theoretically decide to work on one song forever and never release it
Yeah.
until it's perfect, but then you're never going to get anywhere,
Yeah.
and you're never going to get better. So you have to find whatever that point is and be okay releasing something, whether or not it's, your best work. Like there was, like I was saying earlier at the very beginning of the call, I'm lucky that I live with someone who is a creative person and who can tell me like, okay, this is how you solve the problem. Like you don't need to throw away. I had this sketch. If you guys are curious, it's if you go, it's not my most recent sketch. It's maybe the one right before that. It's on Instagram. It'll be easy to find, but it's the one with the House Minority Leader, McCarthy. And
Yeah.
I had made it. I was very frustrated. My most recent sketch, I had filmed that, and I had realized that the news story I was basing it off of had jumped the gun, and they had issued a retraction. So I thought I was going to have to throw it away. And so I very quickly was like, okay, I need another sketch, put something together. I did it because it was so fast. I just like was like, yeah, this is funny. This will be funny. Filmed it, started editing it, was editing it for a very long time. And then I got to the point where I'm like, I don't know if this makes sense. And I showed it to my boyfriend and he's like, he didn't understand it at all. And I was like, fuck, like I just need to throw this video away. I need to throw it away. Like it's done. I'm not gonna, I spent like 4 hours on this and it's completely done. It's trash, whatever. And then I explained something to him. He's like, no, you just need to clarify it in the beginning, like with like what's happening. Cause he thought I was a reporter and when I was supposed to be like the GOP, like an assistant or like another person that was a representative of the GOP. He's like, if you just clarify that in the beginning and you have like the actual reporter's audio, it should be fine. And it did completely help it. I don't think it's like a great sketch. I think it's fine, but I spent like 5 hours, maybe total, maybe 6 hours on it. Like when all was said and done, at that point, probably closer to 4. I'm like, I could have just thrown that away and never had anything, didn't post anything. And like, maybe, fine. But I learned from it and I posted it. It got some views. It did about as well as like I felt it deserved to do. But it was a lesson in like, sometimes you're going to hit points where you're not making your best work, but like, it doesn't mean you have to just throw it all away. You kind of have to be okay pushing past that point and just releasing the thing. You know what I mean? And there was no amount of working on that sketch more than that little fix that I could have done to make it better. Like it wasn't, it was as good as it was going to be, and you got to be okay with it and move on from there. And be okay with it. Release the damn song,
Yes, exactly. Thanks for giving us like an hour or more of your time this morning. I was just gonna ask, let people know where they can find you at, where you would like them to follow at, what's engagement that's great for you right now, and I don't know, maybe anything coming up you're working on.
Well, I mean, definitely any social that you enjoy being on. I'm trying to become much better at putting all my stuff everywhere. I want to see everything I make. For the most part, that lives on TikTok. And then I try to put my best work on Twitter and Instagram and on YouTube now. I'm trying to get a little bit back into YouTube. Hopefully, if I end up not having to get another client and I can spend more time making videos, I might be doing more long form stuff there. But definitely, I think my main platforms that I spend time on are TikTok and Twitter. That's if you want to say hi to me, those are the places to say hi.
Awesome.
Twitter is probably easier to like actually have a conversation, but because the notifications on TikTok, they need to fix them.
Yeah,
there needs to be an easier way to filter. I feel terrible. It's hard to keep up on. I wish I could, like, I feel like there's so many conversations I've started with you and with other creators on their videos that I'm like, I asked a question. I wonder if they ever answered it. I'll never know because
how do I even find that again?
Yeah, exactly. Like, and they should have a thing where it's like a friends tab, because I don't care about the comments I leave on other videos, but like there should be some, I don't know. So real conversations, find me on Twitter. I don't have that many followers there, so it's a little bit easier to manage. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is so fun.
Awesome.
My first Twitch stream too.
Yes.
I'm
Look at that.
excited.
Debut.
Your way. Yeah.
Perfect. I will go ahead and let you go and then debrief with Chad a little bit, but thanks a lot, and I'm sure we'll be in touch in the future.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for having me. I'll talk to you later. Bye, everybody.